All right. So, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name's Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. Now, today I'm only going to be on live for, let's say, about 40 minutes because I have class at 9 o'clock here, my time. So, I just wanted to get on and talk about the Jonathan Majors situation. So, if you don't know who Jonathan Majors is, he is a actor, a Black American actor from Texas, very famous. He starred in, I believe, a few Marvel movies, a movie called Black Man in San Francisco. I watched it, didn't really like it that much. A few other films as well. Decent actor, had a great career ahead of him. He just really started catching his wind. He has been grinding it out for a few years, but unfortunately, he got caught up in a situation with his girlfriend, a white woman named Grace Jabari, and he ended up getting into a kerfuffle with her, a scuffle, fighting over a phone after he got a text from another woman saying, "I really wish I was kissing you," and they started fighting over the phone. He claims she tried to grab it out of his hand. Then he tried to grab it back. They were fighting in the car. He tried to push her back in the car. And she claims that he broke her finger, scratched behind her ear, messed up her face and stuff like that. Also, in another time, they had an argument and he strangled her and made her pass out in the home and that sort of stuff. He ended up getting charged for assault. Went to trial for it. Trial is over already. He was found guilty of reckless assault. So basically, the jury decided that he was not guilty of just straight up assaulting her and like committing domestic violence, but rather just accidentally hurting the girl while in a fight with her. And he got dropped from Marvel. His career is looking real shaky now. Now he's dating Megan Good and that sort of stuff, right? And I think there are a lot of lessons to learn from Jonathan Majors' situation. So many lessons actually to learn from it. And I actually see a lot of myself in Jonathan Majors because as a man who went through his 20s and early teens, dating a lot of different women, being with different women and that sort of stuff, I've been through situations where I was not the best boyfriend or where I was a jerk or where I acted irrationally in situations. And I've come out on the other side of this. I've said this in the previous video that I did for the Niani Finlayson situation where this woman was abused by her ex-boyfriend. She calls 911. The police come and they end up killing her. And I admitted my wrongs there. And I think one of the big parts of that Niani Finlayson story is that, domestic violence can lead to so many negative consequences. And we as men have to be very, 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 very on our P's and Q's when dealing with women. And I think Jonathan Majors' situation is a case where he picked the wrong woman. And this is one of the biggest lessons for men out there, Black men, white men, all men out there. One thing you have to be very careful of when you're out here dating, talking to different women, is picking the right one, because making the wrong choice in who you choose to lay up with, date, marry, whatever, can have negative consequences for you and your life, right? For you and your children, for you and your future. Because unfortunately, I'm not saying this about Grace because the jury found her side to be right and Jonathan Majors was in the wrong, and I would say even if I'm giving my view, if I was on the jury, I would honestly agree that, yeah, as a man, you shouldn't actually put your hands on her. Don't fight with her. She takes your phone, you lost your phone. There ain't no reason to fight over it. And I have to say this, man. As men, we have to be hella careful about how we deal with women and how we treat women, right? I know I have a temper, right? I know I have a temper. I know sometimes I can get hot and that sort of stuff. But one thing we can never do, and there's never an excuse for it as men, is to fight with our women physically and that sort of stuff. And one of the biggest regrets that I have in my life is transgressing those bounds before. And I'm man enough to admit that I have made those types of mistakes. And that's not cool. It was not cool of me to do it. And I'm very lucky and very fortunate to still be walking this earth alive and free as well after all the mistakes I've made. And it's one of the things that I'm embarrassed to say. But I hope by me being honest and open about my transgressions, I can give lessons in game to young men that will come after me. I know I'm not qualified to give advice on anything. I'm not qualified to give advice about money, about about how to live your life, but I do have some experience with women, and I can say this, man. From all the experiences that I've had on dealing with women, one thing that I've learned is that you have to be very, very patient, and also you have to be able to admit when you are wrong. Say when you are wrong, when even if you're not wrong, even if you're not wrong, even if she's doing something very wild, the smartest thing to do is to say you're sorry and to walk away, period. You might think I'm a simp. You might think I'm a PUSSY. You might think I'm some guy who doesn't have a backbone, but you might think, oh, I was taught to check abroad, like that. A lot of this is rampant in some male communities as well, that we have to check women. We have to check them, right? Listen, nobody needs to be checked more than yourself. Nobody should get you out of character that much. Nobody should put you in a situation where you're risking everything that you work so hard for. As men, we work tooth and nail for everything we got. I'm working tooth and nail on this live stream right now, chatting it up with y'all, talking even when nobody's here, making myself look ridiculous, putting out content that only 3 or 4 people watch, but it's about the grind. And that's what we do as men. As men, what we're supposed to do is grind and work and try to make successes out of ourselves, because we have nothing natural that God gives us that makes us valued as men. We define our value, and anything that gives us value came through a lot of hard work and effort. Doesn't matter if you're a 6'8" basketball player, right, who now makes millions of dollars. You have to train and get good at basketball, because you could be 6'8" and still suck on the court, right? So just like Jonathan Majors had to fight tooth and nail to get those Hollywood acting roles, he should have fought himself tooth and nail to not be in that position to where some woman is making him lose everything. And this is the most dangerous thing, right? This is the most dangerous thing about being a man, is that you don't know who is the right one. There's no real way to actually know who is the right one. And I might get slapped for this later. I might get hurt for this later, but even though I am married, I never know if she is the right one, in the sense that, everything will work out fine. Nobody knows the future. Nobody can predict what will happen. The only thing that we can control is ourselves, and we can deal with circumstances accordingly. And with that being said, when we're dealing with certain situations, especially with women who can sometimes act erratic, who can sometimes get emotional, and as well as men, we can be emotional and erratic as well. We should not let our emotions put us in situations where we're risking it all. And this applies to all men. It applies to all men, seriously. You don't want to be waking up after, arguing with your broad in a jail cell. You don't want to, the last thing you saw was your girl screaming at you. Next thing you know, you got, bullets in you, or you got stab wounds in you, and that sort of stuff. These are true things that happen to men. You don't want to go to sleep that night thinking that you just checked your broad and wake up and your little man is gone when you pull back the covers. These sorts of things can happen to men, and they have happened to men. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. Don't listen to me like I'm crazy. These things actually happen to men, and I hope all young men out here in the world learn from my mistakes, dealing with women, where women have made me wake up in a cell, where women have put me in situations where my future was on the line and all that sort of stuff. You don't want to be in that situation as well. Shout out to Ozzy. I'm only just kicking this game right here for all the young men out there, because it's so easy for us to get caught up and say, oh, Jonathan Majors is getting railroaded because he's a black man in America. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true that Jonathan Majors did not get a fair shake, because what he said in his first ever interview with ABC is that if the roles were reversed, if Jonathan Majors was chasing down this white woman through Manhattan, New York City, he would have been shot dead. That's absolutely true. I 1,000% agree with you. But we know that the double standards exist. We don't accept that the double standards exist, but we know that the double standards exist. And until these double standards are changed, we do have to act accordingly. We do have to act in a manner that is to a benefit of our self-interest. Now, that's not going back on what I said about respectability politics, but just as men, we know that there are double standards. We know that, your girl can slap you across the face. And, most of the world, if they saw that happen in a public space, they would say, what did he do wrong? Meanwhile, even after you got slapped by your girl, but you gave her a good backhand, the rest of the world would jump in, right? We know that these double standards exist, and that is okay for a certain extent, because we know that there is a biological difference between men and women, right? It's a much stronger backhand if I give that to my girl rather than she gives that to me. And it is not okay at all for us to ever do that to each other as people, right? If you're in a relationship with somebody, keep your hands to yourself and try to make as good of a choice as possible. Try to look out for all those warning signs. I've been in situations where the girl I was with was so beautiful, so hot. I feel like an angel just landed in my lap. I feel like, how did I luck up and shoot above my shot and actually win? I got her, bobbing up and down on me. You get what I'm saying? I'm just shocked at that. But I didn't see the warning signs. I didn't see the crazy signs in her. I didn't see the crazy eyes. I'm not trying to say stereotype these women. Don't look them in the eyes and check if she's crazy, because that's not a good way. But watch how she speaks to you. Watch how she interacts with you. Watch how jealous she gets and that sort of stuff. Look out for jealousy. Look out for possessiveness. Look out for just erratic behavior, a tendency to yell, a tendency to overreact to things, especially also if a woman is liking to test you. There are some women out there who like to test you. They like to say certain things or do certain things just to see your reaction. And that's absolutely unacceptable, at least for me. Maybe you know how to deal with it, but I've been with women before that in the past, they said, you know what, let me just see. Let me just test him. Let me, tell him that I want to, be with my ex just to see what happens. Let me pretend like I saw him looking at other girls and get really mad at him just to see how he reacts. There are women out there who specifically want to push their man just to see how they react. And that's absolutely not cool. That's somebody that you should not be with. And that's somebody who can land you in a heap of trouble later on. As men, you should be the most guarded about your safety, and that means your life and also your freedom, at least if we're talking in the American context. I don't know about other countries. I don't know about other places and stuff like that, but at least in the American context, the benefit of the doubt is on the woman when she gives that call, or even when you give that call to the police to come and help you out with the situation. If a woman calls 911 and says, my boyfriend's beating on me, best believe you're probably going to jail that night. If you call 911 and say, you know what, my girl is slapping me up and down and stuff like that, they might come and maybe remove her from the house, but she might not go to jail. I've seen this happen with my own eyes. I've seen this happen in my own life and stuff like that. This could definitely happen. No man is perfect, and I know that I will never fully atone for my sins on how I acted with other women, but I hope that my words, like the same way if you were talking to somebody who just did 5 years in the pen for robbing a bank, or talking to somebody who got out of 20 years in jail for murder and stuff like that. I never spent more than a night locked up or anything like that for anything that I've done in the past. But whatever I did in the past, it's absolutely not okay. And I hope that my words now can inspire somebody to actually change their life and be better to the women around them in their life and that sort of stuff. And I try not to be a hypocrite. I try to be the best man that I can to my wife, first and foremost because of my Muslim faith. The Prophet said that the best of you are the ones who are the best to their wives and that sort of stuff. I try to be as good of a man as I can to my wife, and I take that very seriously. And I want you to know, even if you're watching this video right now and you just got out of a bad situation, you're dating a crazy girl, you're with somebody who has you turned up, she has you acting out of character and stuff like that, the first thing you need to do is leave. And the second thing you need to do is know that you can get better and that there is somebody out there for you who will not bring you out of your character. There's a lot of men out there who are with women right now that are pushing them over the edge. And sometimes it's not even her specifically. Maybe she has a specific personality type that another man can deal with that would not push her over the edge. You know, there are some girls out there, and there are some guys out there too, who just are a bit on the edge, and they need somebody else who can bring them and calm them down and that sort of stuff. You know, the yin and the yang, opposites attracts, plus and minuses, hot and cold. Maybe that is what that person needs, and maybe you just don't know how to deal with them. Then maybe there is somebody out there for Grace Jabbari, Jonathan Majors' ex, who can deal with, you know, her craziness. Because in my opinion, I think maybe she's a bit of a crazy broad. If you're snatching phones because you think your man got a text from another woman, that's some crazy woman behavior, right? And that's not okay. And it's not okay for Jonathan Majors, because in the interview he did, it says that he had somewhat of a history of, you know, being aggressive with his girls and that sort of stuff. It's not okay for him either. I don't believe he's an abuser. I don't believe that he was out here, smacking broads up and down and that sort of stuff, or, strangling women and that sort of stuff. I don't believe that. But yet and still, it seems like there might be some inner anger problems he has. You know what I mean? But if you're with a woman and she has you writing text messages talking about you committing that, you wanting to leave this planet on your own volition, that's somebody who has got you out of place. And as men, we do not need to be with women like that. Life is too short. Life is too short to be with somebody who has you hating yourself that much where you don't want to be alive anymore. That is not cool. That's absolutely not cool to be with somebody who has you like that. And it's not okay either to be with somebody that makes you run across Manhattan for 3 blocks over a text from a cell phone. As men, we have to be very careful on who we decide to be with. The most important thing is that you're right with yourself, is that you're okay with yourself, and that also if you allow somebody to be in your presence and build with you and build a life with you, that you're with somebody who has you at your very best, not at your absolute worst, not with you having to talk to police about the situation and that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of men caught in those situations. Now let's talk about the taboo. You won't hear this on any other YouTube channel. There's a taboo out there. There's some stereotype. There's some myth that the crazier the person is, the better the P or the better the D. The crazier the person is, the better the P or the better the D. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you ain't grown and you shouldn't be watching this live stream. Is that true? Is that true? Is it true that the crazier she is, the better the P? No. What does Snoop Dogg say? Ain't no P good enough to get burnt while I'm up in it. Ain't no P good enough to get burnt while I'm up in it. I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to brag, and I'm not trying to be gross either, because this is not a Passport Bro channel. This is not a Red Pill channel. This is not a Manosphere channel and something like that. This is not that. But I've been with different people, the ones who are sane, and even though we didn't, end up in a relationship or anything like that, had just as good a P as people, as the women that were literally insane, that were crazy, that were the ones that brought me out of character, or the ones we just didn't meld with and gel with. It's absolutely not true. It's not true. It's not true. I was with a chick one time who was literally crazy, like had like some, I'm not with anybody with like a Down syndrome. I'm not messing around with chicks who got like autism or something like that, at least as far as I know. I mean, all the women I've spoken with have been functioning, seem normal, could hold regular conversations and that sort of stuff. But I was with a girl one time who literally would not stop talking. She would talk for hours, and I would literally just sit there and listen to her talk and have to pretend like I was following her. You get what I'm saying? We ended up hooking up and that sort of stuff. And it was less than average. I'll say that. You would think, because she was literally crazy, would not stop talking, just for hours, literally hours. And I just sat there. You would think that would be fire. In fact, that's why I sat there and listened. I said, oh, this is going to be good. Because I used to believe that too. The crazier she, the better the P. But absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true. Then I'm dating this other girl who's like, normal, absolutely normal, didn't overtalk, didn't say anything too much, and still, it was fire. It was fire. It was okay. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to say that to brag or flex on my past, but I'm just trying to say this. Somebody might be saying right now, oh, Jonathan Major stayed with Grace because she was throwing it back like crazy, or she was gobbling it up like the last hot dog on earth or something like that. No. He was probably just with her because he really liked her and she really liked him. And there was probably also mind manipulation going on as well, because sometimes you're with somebody who doesn't have anything else but a great way to just manipulate you and make you think that they will be nothing without you and you will be nothing without them, or something like that. There's a lot of that toxicity that happens in relationships as well. There are some people that crave toxicity. Ozzy said in the comments, why do people love drama? I don't know why people love drama, because I like comedies. I like to laugh. I like to have fun. I like to have a good old time. I don't like to be around drama, but some people are in that. And sometimes like I said at the beginning, you can get caught up in just the wonder or the beauty of this person, right? And what you should be doing is, how can I say this? And I hate to say what you should be doing, because once again, I am I'm a person that you should just listen to, but don't follow me in the sense that you hang on to my every words. I'm just one man with an opinion out here just trying to get it how I live on YouTube. But I'll just say this. What you should do is be with that person who keeps you on an even keel. A person, of course, who challenges you, pushes you, doesn't just say yes to everything. A person, of course, who has their own opinion. A person, of course, who has their own mind and won't tolerate anything. Because as a man at least, or any partner in any relationship, you should be checked sometimes for your transgressions or things you do wrong, because having a healthy relationship is about balance and that sort of thing. But what you should not do is be with somebody who absolutely pushes you to the total edge. Somebody who pushes you is going to say, you know what, maybe you shouldn't do that. Not, don't you ever do that again, MF, something like that. I'm trying not to cuss because YouTube is limiting all the ads on a lot of my videos for no reason. Even though you see right now, 20 minutes in, I'm not cussing, but YouTube wants to hate on me because I'm a handsome melanated Black man just talking and building about real issues. Ozzy said in the comments, what would she talk about for 5 hours? Literally, she would just sit there and talk about her life. Like, she would start off talking about, how she loved math when she was a kid. And next thing you know, the conversation would end up on why she hates her boss. And for some reason, those two subjects took 3 hours to get to, or stuff like that. And just even asking her, how was her day? She would go minute by minute about her day. Well, I woke up, I put on my slippers, I went into the shower, but the water wasn't like exactly as hot as I wanted it to be. So I waited for like a good, 20 minutes there on my phone, on the toilet, like literally would go through every minute play by play of her day. She was insane. I don't know what she's doing now. But yeah, that's just my opinion about the Jonathan Majors thing. It's easy to get caught up and say, oh, he wouldn't be in this situation if he was with a Black girl, or Jonathan Majors messed up because he chose a white woman and he was trying to force this white woman to be like Michelle Obama or Coretta Scott King, something like that. I'll just say this. It doesn't matter if she was white or Black, because, a Black woman or a white woman can put you in a situation where you wake up in a jail cell, or where you wake up the next morning and you're seeing the judge, or you wake up the next morning and your house is destroyed, your car is keyed, your clothes are all torn up. Women can do these sorts of things. And also, I'll flip this around for women as well. It's very dangerous sometimes with men, because men can be even worse than women. Women will be vindictive against you and find ways to get back at you in ways that you'll never imagine, right? In ways that are very smart. They'll put milk in a spray bottle and spray it all over your carpet, and you don't know why your house smells funky as hell. Like, women will do something like that. But sometimes when we get emotional, especially about a woman, sometimes people lose their lives, unfortunately. And so women have to be very careful about who you pick. But all of us should be very, very wary about who we decide to lay with or stay with. And I believe Jonathan Majors made that mistake. But this is a mistake that any man can make. If you're in a relationship right now, you honestly don't know if that person is the right person who will make sure that you'll be cool all the time. You can only hope for the best. But as you know, Black people, we don't hope. We wish. We wish a motherfucker would. That's what we wish. No, we just wish that everything goes okay. But we can't live on hope. We can only just wish that the person that we're with is who they say they are. And they'll always be at least calm and cool with you and not push you to the edge. But you'll never know. The only thing you do know is that you can control yourself. You can control yourself. You should not let anybody get you in that position. As a young man, I've been in that position. You don't want to go through the struggles that I've had to go through to get where I am, and also where I'm still trying to get out of, where I'm just still trying to get out of. And everybody has a past. Everybody has something that they're not ashamed, that they're not proud of, and that sort of stuff. And the situations that I've had with women in the past, I am not proud of at all. But I can at least say that I made it out on the other side. I'm glad that I made it out. I learned from my mistakes, and hopefully you can too. And that's really all I have to say about that. Let's get into the Cam'ron situation, because I only got a few minutes left before I have to go to class. So Cam'ron has a podcast that he has with the rapper Mase. It's a sports podcast where they talk about all sorts of things happening in that realm of celebrity. And for some reason, For some reason, Cameron decided to talk about Africans and why Cameron does not identify as African, because he said basically the Africans don't mess with us, the Africans don't rock with us. So I define myself as American because, or Black American or African. No, he defines himself as Black American. That's what he said, not African American, because he said, you know, I don't know anything about Africa. The Africans don't rock with us. Coming from New York, he would have a better understanding of what Africans are like. Because for me, growing up in Louisiana, we didn't have that many Africans around. It's just literally Black Americans and white Americans, and maybe one or two Hispanic people or Latin or Asian people or something like that. And so, yeah, he probably has a deeper understanding because he probably grew up thinking, oh, that's little Nigeria, that's little Kenya, that's little Jamaica, that's little Haiti, something like that, all in New York. Like that's something, at least for us growing up in small town Southern America, we don't really have that. And I'll just say this, as somebody who's traveled to Africa, as somebody who has in the past few years, you know, been out and about, lived in Africa, been around Africans and that sort of stuff, they are our cousins. They are our cousins, right? They have a different cultural mindset. And of course, Africa is a very large place. Egypt and Morocco are totally different than Mozambique and South Africa, right? Like the cultural differences, even amongst Africans, even in the same country, is insanely big, right? You're in a place like Tanzania, like where I went last year, and within that one nation, you have 100 different languages spoken, hundreds of different ethnic groups. The same right across the border in Kenya, that sort of stuff. Even though they generally all speak Swahili, they're trying to all make everybody speak Swahili. There are different ethnic groups and groups of people who separate themselves. So what's the problem with us as Black Americans separating ourselves as well? There's no problem with us finding a difference or delineating and identifying ourselves, because we have a unique history, we have a unique background, and that sort of thing. So I think what Cameron was trying to say was not something to denigrate Africans, but we don't have to hold up the banner of Pan-Africanism. As Black Americans, shout out to Avery Adams as well. He said lessons for every man when dating. Absolutely, man. What I was just trying to say, I don't know, Avery, if you came in late, but basically we got to try to pick the right person, because you know, so many men in so many situations wake up one day and everything that they worked for is gone just because they were with the person who put them in a situation that they did not need to be in, and that they should have better controlled themselves. And that's very important. But like I was saying about the Africans and the Black people and our separation and that sort of stuff, listen, I'll just say this. What we created and what we are in America is a unique thing. We are not like the Senegalese. We're not like the Nigerians. We have a lot of similarities because, of course, our ancestors were brought from there. But what we have done in America with creating jazz, creating new ways of using the English language, creating new ways to identify with God, creating new ways of understanding the world, being the first people to advocate against the forces that tell us that black people have some inherent deficiency or that we are inferior and that sort of stuff. We've been on the forefront of all of that. A lot of Africans can't say the same thing. A lot of Africans, unfortunately, have a worldview where they view white as right, and getting closer to the white man is what ultimately a lot of them want to do. I'm not pointing at all the Africans, but I'm just saying for a large portion of them, especially when you go to Africa, and you'll see it yourself, they're selling the bleaching cream. They're selling the whitening soap. A lot of them have on blonde wigs, dyeing their hair blonde and that sort of stuff. And when they see a white person, they go absolutely insane in Africa. And that's not cool for what our people should be doing. That's not cool at all. And we as Black Americans, yeah, we have our coon class. We have some people that think the white man's ice is colder, but that's not a lot of us. That's not a lot of us. That's not all of us. That's a very small minority of us. And what I'll say is that, you know, we can't constantly try to denigrate our Americanness or our Black American identity just to advocate for Africans or advocate an African identity when that sort of identity doesn't really, you know, exist with us. It doesn't really exist with us. Black Americans in mass are not all trying to learn Swahili or Wolof. We're not all trying to wear kente cloths or Swahili robes and that sort of stuff. We're not trying to all speak Xhosa and that sort of stuff. We're not even all trying to immigrate abroad. Not everybody's gonna move back to Africa. And in fact, I honestly believe Black people have the right to live wherever they want to live. If you want to stay in America, you have the right to stay in America because we built that nation. And if you want to move abroad and live in Europe like me, that's another thing that you can do. And that's your possibility too, because as Black people, we are a blameless people. We're a people that didn't do anything to anybody. We have no sort of negative rep that we deserve. We have the right to be anywhere as long as it's safe for us and our children and our families. We shouldn't be tied down to just America if you want to, but we should not denigrate our American identity. I'm going to skip this ad. Ads were about to come up, but I'm going to skip that ad because my guy Avery sent $20. Shout out to Avery as well. And yeah, man, I listen sometimes to this other YouTuber who's very famous, more famous than me, somebody I actually admire. His name is Marc Lamont Hill. And Marc Lamont Hill went on a big rant today on his YouTube channel talking about how Black people need to not divorce Africa because within our flows, within our style, within our rhythm, there's Africa. Listen, we are not going to give up our credit, the stuff that we created, and just credit it to Africa. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Show me where in Africa they are rapping like how we rap. Show me where in Africa they're singing like Patti LaBelle or Betty White. Show me where in Africa they had en masse a movement to gain their human and civil rights. And I'm not talking about the independence movement. I'm talking about the movements to actually end white supremacy and end neocolonialism and white domination. That still happens in Africa right now. With what is happening in Africa right now, if it was filled with Black Americans, you wouldn't see these mines in Congo where these rich European companies are extracting all the minerals and making billions of dollars. Meanwhile, the Congolese live in squalor. You would not see what is happening in South Africa, where they have to load shed, where white South Africans live with the power and the heat and the electricity on all day, where the rich Indians and whites and all the other foreigners and all the other non-Black foreigners in South Africa live in luxury with Black people, with Black Americans there. You would not see that. We would have gotten that straight. We would have gotten what's going on in Mozambique, in Kenya, in Uganda, even in North Africa. If it was filled with us, the neocolonialism that's happening in Africa would not be happening. They should have like 300 Malcolm X's, 700 Martin Luther Kings in Africa with what is happening right now. But yet and still, what do a lot of them instead try to do? Get on the rafts, get on the boats, and many of them, unfortunately, die in the Mediterranean trying to get to Europe. Now, of course, people do have the right and the opportunity to go where they need to go and step outside of their bounds and be with the people who can give them a better life, right? If you're sick and tired of living in squalor, you have the right to pick up and leave and that sort of thing. But where is that same energy towards actually making a Nigeria a Wakanda? Where is that energy towards making Sierra Leone Wakanda? Where is that energy towards making Cameroon Wakanda? So Ozzy said, you even did a video on the Kenyan parliament banning their own Kawanda suits to fit into white respectability politics. Yes, I did. I forgot about that. But this is another thing as well. With everything that is happening in Africa right now, they should be the most Pan-African. But when you go to Africa, you hear a lot of people saying, welcome to Africa, my brother, welcome to Africa, and all that sort of stuff. But as soon as they see the white man, what do they say? I want a white woman. I want to go to Europe. Literal words I've heard out of the Africans' mouths in multiple times in multiple places and that sort of stuff. I can understand ignorance. I can understand poverty, but I can't understand white worship. And that is the big difference between us as Black Americans and the Africans in mass. I'm going to keep it real. I know I shouldn't paint such broad brushstrokes, but this is what happens. This is what's happening. So no, we're not going to claim an African identity because an African identity right now is white worshiping. It's really white worshiping, and that's not what we're on. What we're on right now is about being free and liberated Black people, living how we want to live, embracing our Black identity, not running from who we are, and just being our true selves. Not over here saying that, we're going to do whatever it takes to get to Europe or do whatever it takes to get a white woman. I mean, of course, if you're handsome, melanated, chocolate, funny, charismatic like me, you will end up with a beautiful woman. Maybe she'll be white, but you shouldn't live your life chasing white women. I'm just keeping it absolutely real with you. So I stand on what Cameron said. Me, I don't identify as FBA or ADOS. I just identify as a Black American. I identify as Black American. Of course, you guys know I have my Belizean roots, but don't know anything about Belize. So I'm just going to be cool with just Black American. That's the one I feel comfortable with. That's what I tell people all the time. And I don't feel comfortable saying African because I wasn't born in Africa. And first and foremost, not everybody in Africa is Black. And I think if we're going to have Pan-Africanism like we really want, we can't just be painting Pan-Africanism with Black paint strokes. We can't just be saying here that, we need a united Africa for Black people, right? Because where does that leave the Moroccans? Where does that leave the Egyptians? I know I have a lot of harsh words about Arab racism, which is one thing, but in the same strokes, if we're going to be ideologically consistent, we can't be saying on one hand, we want a united Black Africa and Africa for Africans. Meanwhile, we're thinking that, all of Egypt shouldn't be included in that. All of Morocco and everything in between shouldn't be included in that. Because Africa is a geographic space. I am an American. I have American ideals. I believe a lot of the American creeds about freedom of expression, not worshiping gerontocracies, no monarchies, no aristocracies, that sort of stuff. I'm about that. I'm about, the freedom and democracy and that sort of stuff. All those American ideals that we're embedded in our minds in civics class. I think those are honorable ideas. A lot of Africans, unfortunately, don't have that. A lot of Africans believe that, the elders know better. The elders know better, and democracy is something that, a lot of people in Africa aren't ready for. And, when we have traditions should not be broken. These are things that, we as Black Americans don't really hold on to. We're not holding on just to traditions just for tradition's sake. We're not just holding on to cultural things just for cultural sake. We're actually trying to advance and move forward as a people. And we're about embracing new ideas. And we're not, a lot of Africans, unfortunately, are homophobic. A lot of Africans really dislike gay people. And that's not us. That's not us. We're not into bashing on, brothers who like to be with brothers or sisters who like to be with sisters. We're not on that. You know what I mean? A lot of Africans are hyper religious. You thought Big Mama loved Jesus. Wait until you meet the average African Christian. They are really heavy on religion, and we're not heavy on religion like that and that sort of stuff. We eat different foods. They eat a lot of plantains. They eat a lot of mangoes. I enjoy a good mango. I enjoy a good plantain, but I'm about that mashed potatoes. I'm about that baked macaroni and cheese. I'm about that fried chicken, but I don't eat fried chicken no more. You get what I'm saying? We have different cultural things, and that's okay. Every culture has their own thing. We shouldn't be ashamed of our culture. There's nothing so inherently flawed with our culture that we should now embrace African identity over what our ancestors built and what we've inherited. We can incorporate different things, right? We've brought on, the red, black, and green into our fashion and that sort of stuff. We can incorporate, African dances or African words, Swahili words into English and that sort of stuff. But that doesn't mean we should just let go of everything that our ancestors put in front of us. So that's what I had to say about Jonathan Majors. That's what I had to say about the Cameron situation. I hope all of that was absolutely clear. Shout out to everybody who came in and chopped it up with me on this brief live stream. Y'all go check out the other videos I'm dropping. Shout out to Ozzy for leaving comments. He's always dope. Shout out to Avery Adams as well. I encourage all of you to join me on X so we can have some chop it up in person, or at least, voice to voice. You know what I mean? I tried to do the live stream call in on lives before, but yeah, it's not really working out because of the internet connection. It's just going to create a fuzzy screen. So I'd rather chop it up with y'all on X. You don't have to follow, but we're going to have some good times on there this year. More movie reviews coming, but we could also just talk about whatever. So thank you to everybody who's been subscribing, watching, donating, sharing, all of that, all of that. My name is Simon Hill. Peace.